السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله، نحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وصلواته وسلامه على أفضل خلق الله على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Alhamdulillah, for those of you, inshallah, most of you saw last night's presentation. Inshallah, this is an extension and it's looking at another troubling aspect of fasad al-ard, which is popular culture. Culture is something that is related to cultivation, imarat al-ard. In fact, in Arabic, one of the traditional words they use for culture was imran. So it's related to imarat al-ard because the culture that a people produces reflects the quality of the people. Human beings we have two aspects to our intellect. One is related to quality and the other is related to quantity. Quality is the linguistic aspect of our existence, our rationality, our intelligence, as it's used to express our thoughts, to contemplate, to think, to reflect. And then quantity is that aspect of our understanding that relates to numbers, that relates to measurement. And they're both very important. But historically, quality has always been the most important aspect of a culture or a civilization. And when quantity becomes the dominant aspect of a civilization, then it's a civilization that has lost an essence. It's a civilization that is really on its way down. The civilization that is currently a global civilization is a hegemonic civilization, and by that I mean that it is a culture that when it comes into places, it begins to dominate and it destroys the other cultures, it destroys authentic cultures, it marginalizes them like Epcot of Disney World. It makes the culture a show. And so now if you go to one of the Muslim countries, you will see, as you go into your 5-star intercontinental hotel, you will see the culture in the clothes of the doorman. And these are the only people now that are wearing traditional clothes. When you go into the restaurants, you will see the clothes on the waiter that's serving you who's wearing a turban. The turban is no longer part of the culture anymore. It's become a caricature of the culture. So the culture itself has lost its essence, and it simply becomes like a cartoon culture. And this has happened all over the world. Now, one of the things that's very important in our religion, and in the past I've focused on it, and then other times I haven't, but I'm feeling more compelled to focus on it because I find that so few people do focus on it. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Dajjal will not emerge except when people are in a state of heedlessness. لا يخرج الدجال إلا عن ذهلة من الناس. He said that Dajjal will not emerge until the Imam stop mentioning him on the minbar. The Prophet ﷺ made 1/4 of his religion the signs of the latter days. If you look at the famous hadith of Jibreel, which is in Sahih Muslim, when Jibreel ﷺ came, the Sahaba didn't recognize him. They saw no traces of traveling. When he came into the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, sat down, put his knees up to his knees, put his hands on his thighs, and then he asked the Prophet ﷺ about Islam. He told him about Islam. The Prophet ﷺ once he finished, Jibreel said, "Sadaqta." فَعَجِبْنَا يَسَرُهُ يُصَدِّقُهُ. They were amazed that he would ask them, and then he would also say that's correct. And then he asked him about Iman, he gave him the objects of Iman, the 6 articles of our faith, and then he asked him about Ihsan. He told him what Ihsan was, and then he asked him about the Asharat al-Sa'. The Asharat, the plural of Shurat, are the signs, the alamat. The Prophet ﷺ gave 2 aspects to the signs. The first one, he said, أَن تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا, that the slave would give birth to her master. And the second one, he said, أَن تَرَى الْحُفَاةَ الْعُرَاةَ الْعَالَى رِعَى الشَّاءِ يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ. You will see the destitute, the naked, the shepherds vying in building great buildings. Those 2 points that the Prophet ﷺ summarized, the signs of the end of time, reflect the 2 aspects of the end of time. One of them is what traditional scholars call qalb al-haqa'iq, which is the inversion of realities. Things are turned upside down. What is normal becomes deviant, and what is deviant becomes normal. What is central becomes marginalized, and what is marginalized becomes central. So, an example of that in our civilization is that heterosexuals are no longer marrying, and yet homosexuals now, who traditionally didn't marry. In fact, I actually have a book written, it's a series of essays by homosexuals arguing that the whole point of homosexuality was not to get married. And so they're actually arguing against gay marriage. This is the point of Fran Lebowitz, who said, it's amazing that the 2 things that they're fighting, struggling for the rights, is to get into the military, and people used to pretend to be gay to get out of the military, and then to get married. And this was something that gay people saw as a aspect of bourgeois society. So this is an inversion. It's qalb al-haqa'iq. That's the first aspect. Now I think there's an ishara in this also, that the Muslim civilization, which was a civilization of ubudiyya, it's an ama. The Muslim civilization gave birth to the Western civilization, which is a civilization of control. It's a civilization of rububiyyah. They want to control the earth. And these are very different qualities. The Muslims never wanted to control the earth for control's sake. They wanted to control it in order to subdue it, to tame the gentle nature, the bestial nature, make it more gentle, so that human beings did not fight each other. The Prophet ﷺ talked about that his religion would be a religion that once it spread, people would be safe to travel the roads. They would no longer fear anything other than the wolves on the roads. Even a woman could travel from Syria to Yemen and fear nothing but the wolves or the lions on the road. So this was the reason. The Muslims were a civilization of service to humanity. Their sciences were directed to serving human beings, not to exploiting them, not to manipulating them. We know now that there are whole institutions in this civilization that are designed to learn and understand the psychology of human beings so they can exploit them better, so they can put into them false desires. There are many books on this, but if you want to read the origin of these ideas, you can read Edward Bernays, who wrote Propaganda. He was the person that gave us the word public relations, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who actually invented the whole science of public relations, and he actually changed the name propaganda to public relations because he felt the Nazis gave propaganda a bad name. So now we have big data, mining. People, you're being watched. All your buying and selling is being watched. What you do on your internet. Recently, it was admitted by the NSA that they were watching the pornographic habits of a lot of these extremists. And they were actually talking about exposing the fact that a lot of these extremists are going online to watch pornography. I actually have a theory about that, and maybe one day I'll write about that. But what this is, what you're about to see, is my reflections on our popular culture, or what I termed occulture, and then when I Googled it, I found that somebody had already coined that word. So I'm calling it occulture because there's an occultic element to it. And we know that I was actually going to bring Sidi Ahmed Zarruq's Qawa'id to read a qa'idah from you, but I'll give you the gist of the qa'idah. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq in his Qawa'id, he said that no reality comes into the world, no haqiqa, ma ظهرت حقيقة في الدنيا إلا قوبلت, except that it is met with its opposite in the unseen, in the dark realm, in the occultic realm. And he said it is distorted. So Shaitan will always meet truth with a false truth, but it mimics it, and this is part of the nature of existence, is that these so when you look at what's happening today, these are Dajjalic manifestations, in that the Dajjal is the anti-Christic phenomenon. Now if you look at one of the miracles of Surah Al-Kahf, is that it begins with the Christians who fled the world. The Christians, the beginning of Christianity is a religion of complete zuhud, of the abandonment of the world. This was the nature of the Christians. We have the church desert fathers, and I'll give you one beautiful story about two desert fathers. They lived in a cave together. They'd been there 20 years. They never got into an argument or anything. They just worshipped Allah in this cave. This was in the Sinai desert. One day one of the monks said to the other one, you know, we've never had an argument. Let's just have an argument to see what it's like. And the other monk said to him, well, how do we do that? And he said, look, I'll take this rock, I'm going to put it between us, and I'm going to say this is my rock. And then you say, no, it's my rock. And that should get it going. So he takes the rock, he puts it, he says, this is my rock. And the other monk says, no, it's my rock. And he said, no, it isn't, it's my rock. And he said, then you can have it. And that was the end of their argument. These were the early Christians. Just read the church fathers and their writings about fleeing the world and the dangers of the world. They saw the world as a shipwreck. They saw the people of the world as people that were literally sinking on the ship of dunya, on the ship of the world. And yet by the end of Surah Al-Kahf, so it begins as these Christians in the cave, by the end of Surah Al-Kahf, it has the people who all of their efforts are lost in the pursuits of this world. ضَلَّ سَعْيُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. All of their actions are lost in this world. وَيَحْسِبُونَ or يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صَنْعًا. And yet they think that they're manufacturing beautiful things. They think that they're manufacturing wondrous things. This is one of the marvels of Christianity, that it begins with complete abandonment of the world, and now we see the Christians, they are the biggest consumers on the planet. They are the people that have literally flooded the world with these cheap goods, and now China has taken the lead and learned well from Europe and America. And they're now flooding the world. One of the meanings of Dujjal, if you look in Ibn Lisan, in Lisan al-Arab of Ibn Mandur, one of the words of meanings of Dujjal is to spread cheap goods around the earth. So this is in the Arabic language. One of the worst aspects of our civilization, and this is a great condemnation of the educational system, because we have people that go to school for 12 years, and by the end of 12 years, look at the programs that they watch on television, look at the films that they watch, look at the games that they play, look at the magazines that they read, and look at the grammar of their texts, and the grammar of their ridiculous comments on the internet. The i'jabu kulli ra'yin bidi ra'yihi, the amazement of every opinionated person with his opinion. And you'll note that almost invariably, the most stupid remarks have the worst grammar. And always if there's an intelligent remark, it has good grammar. And people think grammar is not important. Grammar is an indication. And you don't have to be educated to speak properly, as the Jahili Arabs were very well noted for. So this is to look at popular culture. I want to look at the nature of popular culture, why it's becoming increasingly occultic, and what these mean for us as a community.
Is that apostrophe, right? Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. This is the beginning of every act of devotion. The Muslims seek refuge from shaitan. I personally believe, and I'm guilty of this myself, I personally believe that the Muslims have underestimated shaitan. Underestimated how sophisticated shaitan is. Shaitan's cave, his plot is weak. It is weak in reality, but it's a spider's web. The spider's web is very sophisticated, and people are very caught up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattabi'u khutuwati shaitan. Do not follow the progress of shaitan. The khutuwat here are the steps that shaitan is taking, leading you on to. Don't follow the progress of shaitan. من يتبع خطوات الشيطان فإنه يأمر بالفحشاء والمنكر ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته ما زكى منكم من أحد أبدا ولكن الله يزكي من يشاء والله سميع عليم. So if you look at this ayah, Allah is telling us not to follow the steps of shaitan, not to follow his progress, and whoever follows that progress, then you will see him commanding to foulness and commanding to munkar, everything that is detestable. And had it not been for the grace of God and his mercy, no one would have been purified amongst us. But Allah purifies whom he pleases, and Allah is hearing and knowing. I want to look now at the media, the popular media, and just some of the things that we're seeing. All of the research indicates that media violence has not only increased in quantity, but also become more graphic, sexual, and sadistic. You're seeing films where people are tortured, where they're cut up into pieces. Recently, in fact, just yesterday, we had somebody that cut up their roommate's dog into pieces and threatened to cut them up into pieces. We are increasingly seeing these very sick crimes that are happening. And you have to wonder what the relationship is. This is in 2000, it showed that 80% of R-rated movies and 70% of restricted video games and 100% of music with explicit content, warning labels, were being marketed to children under 17. Now I'll tell you something about R-rated films. I am absolutely certain that when I was a child or young person, what was R then is PG today. Really, what was R in 1970 is PG today. What is R today in 1970 would have been X. And so we've got people that are going to films that people even 20, 30, 40 years ago would have been shocked that these are films that are being seen by young people. If you took somebody from the 19th century and brought them into this civilization, I think they would just go mad. They would not believe what's happened to human beings. By the time the average child is 18 years old, they will have witnessed 200,000 acts of violence and 16,000 murders. 200,000 acts of violence and 16,000 murders. And we know now with mirror neurons that this is affecting us in a much deeper way than we had previously thought. Media violence is especially damaging to young children under 8 because they cannot easily tell the difference between real life and fantasy. We recently had the report from Sandy Hook, this poor boy that was autistic. He had some level of autism. He spent his entire time in a basement with all the walls sealed, watching violent video games. One of the video games that he had was called School Massacre. He actually, the violent event that happened was precipitated by a blackout in the area where he could not have access to the video games that he would play all night. And so he became increasingly disturbed. The only thing that his mother did, she used to go out with him. I mean, he had a completely bizarre relationship with his mother, but they used to go out and they would shoot guns together. So this is an example of you can say, you know, you have these experts come out and say, they say there's no correlation
correlation between children watching these video games and violence. Well, I'm sorry, that's just so stupid to me, because I have 5 boys, and I've seen many, many times with children, if they watch a karate, like Karate Kid, they're suddenly kicking each other. So I'm just sorry, it's just ridiculous to make that assumption that there's no correlation. When I was a young man, there was a boy in Florida who watched a scene in Kojak. Kojak was a program in the 1970s. He watched a program where, in the program, a boy killed the next door neighbor, who was an old lady, and stole all her money. And Kojak solves the crime. Well, this boy shaved his head bald. Kojak was bald. Put a lollipop into his mouth, which Kojak used to do. Went next door and killed this old lady who lived next door to him. And at court, they had experts saying it had nothing to do with seeing the film of this. So this is the type of denial that our culture's in. But if you want to go into this deeply, you can read Dave Grossman's book, Stop Teaching Our Children to Kill. He's a lieutenant colonel. He taught the psychology of killing at West Point for several years. He developed a whole science called killology. This is because in military studies, what they found is that soldiers in the Civil War were very often not firing, or they would pretend to fire. They often found their guns filled with the bullets, and they weren't firing them. They found in World War II, when they started doing serious statistics, only 15% of combat soldiers were actually firing directly at the enemy. Most were firing above their heads, because human beings do not like to kill each other. In fact, very few species, there are only about 4 species on the planet that kill intraspecies. If you look at animals when they fight, if they're fighting amongst themselves, for instance, horned animals, they will lock horns. But if they fight an enemy from outside, they will gouge them with the horn. This is part of the psychology of mammals.
Hello, Earth. I'm Alec Baldwin, TV star. You know, they say TV will rot your brain. That's absurd. TV only softens the brain, like a ripe banana, to take it all the way. We've created Hulu. Hulu beams TV directly to your portable computing devices, giving you more of the cerebral gelatinizing shows you want, anytime, anywhere, for free.
I only act out because I want your love. Dynamite!
Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, what are you going to do, turn off your TV and your computer? Once your brains are reduced to a cottage cheese-like mush, we'll scoop them out with a melon bowler and gobble them right on up. Oops. I think I'm drooling a little. Because we're aliens. And that's how we roll. Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
2 out of 3 Hollywood films released in 2001 were rated R. This is the average time spent watching television. Now, this is an average. So there are households where the television is, you're looking at 10, 12 hours of viewing. Others, and they've done studies, and you will see that, for instance, CEOs watch about 2 hours a week. They're usually directly involve their work. Managers, about 4 to 6 a week. And as you go down the line, the TV viewing gets higher and higher. So the people that are ruling the world don't spend a lot of time watching TV. If you look in the African American community, these are statistics from the US. I apologize to the Canadians. It's 7 hours. White, 5 hours. Hispanic, 4, because they're working, right? They're mowing the lawns in America and doing all the hard labor, right? So they're hardworking people, and that's no insult to the Hispanic community. My wife's Hispanic, so I know how hard she works. And then the Asian community, only 3 hours. 99% of households possess at least one television now. 2.2 number of TV sets in the average U.S. household. 65% of U.S. homes with 3 or more TV sets. 67% of Americans that regularly watch TV while eating dinner. You know, in Mauritania, one of the beautiful aspects of Mauritanian culture that really impressed me was scholars would always put aside the books, and they have a saying in Mauritania, إِذَا حَضَرَتَ النَّفَقَ ضُمَّتَ الْوَرَقَ. When the food comes, you put aside the book, because each act that you do, you should have intentionality. You should be directed towards that act. You shouldn't be doing 2 things at one time. We now know that human beings are not good multitaskers. 56% of Americans who pay for cable TV, 49% who say they watch too much TV, and those are the honest ones. 34 hours per week over the age of 2, 34 hours per week, average Americans over the age of 2 spend in front of television. Many people are now using television to raise their children. The Pediatric Association in the United States now recommends that children do not see any television at all before 2. Do not expose any children to television. They actually debated that number. There was an excellent article written in Scientific America a few years back. It was a front page article. Is television addictive? They actually determined that television is a low-grade addiction, that people do get addicted to television. Young children that grow up on television, they know that it affects the growth of their brain, the corpus callosum. There are some brilliant books that were written in the 1950s when they did a lot of these studies that were completely hidden from people in my estimation, because there's so much money in this. They knew, for instance, that you had to speed up television to get children to sit in front of it. So if you wonder why Sesame Street and all these really terrible programs for children are so fast, or cartoons are fast, it's because children will not sit in front of real-time television because they're too active. So they have to speed it up to engage them. And now we wonder why we have so much attention deficit disorder. Children can't concentrate in schools. 4 to 6-year-olds who, when asked to choose between watching TV and spending time with their fathers, preferred television. 54%. The serious crises. 900 hours in school, 1,200 hours watching television. And now increasingly they're trying to put computers in schools. We have the Macintosh, Bill Gates' attempts to get school. Recently I was sad to see that Turkey bought I think $1 billion or something worth, 250 million worth of iPads so that the Turkish students could learn from television screens. 16,000 number of 30-second TV commercials seen in a year by an average child. 16,000. You're wondering why they eat too much, why they're obese. Now, the cartoons are very, very dark. These cartoons that are done, if you actually read about the people that, like Seth MacFarlane, extraordinary dark human being, just completely, I mean, they consider him a genius, just a completely degraded, I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for adjectives, but really troubling. And he recently traumatized America by killing off the dog. And so now they brought the dog back, I think. So, I mean, I know about this because I read. Don't think I don't watch this stuff. So, because I read it. These are headline news instead of the fact that the American national debt's at $16 trillion. They get news that says some cartoon dog died. Again, occultic phenomenon, all the Scooby-Doo. Homer Simpson, this man is a complete anarchist. Matt Groden, if you read his philosophy, I mean, these people have really, really dark nihilistic philosophies. They're atheists. They don't believe in anything. And these are the vehicles that they've chosen to communicate their ideas. There are books now written on the philosophy of Homer Simpson. These are taught in philosophy courses in the United States because they understand the impact that these things have. Obviously, the father is an idiot. The child is disobedient, right? Very strange stuff. And children watch these things. Don't think they don't watch them. The level of violence during Saturday morning cartoons is higher than the level of violence during prime time. There are 3 to 5 violent acts per hour in prime time versus 20 to 25 acts per hour on Saturday morning. Now we move into wastafziz, right? Man istata'ta minhum bi sawtika. Allah says in the Quran to capture those, to agitate those of whom you're capable of amongst them with your voice. The Mufassirun say with demonic music. Wajlib alayhim, right? And then pull them in with your cavalry, bikhaylika, right? Warajlika, and your foot soldiers. They say the cavalry are the really effective shayateen, and then the foot soldiers are the less effective shayateen. وَشَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ, and share in their children. Share in their children. Get your portion of their children. Share in their wealth. This is what the demons are up to. They want a portion of your children. شَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ. Get them using riba. Get them earning haram livelihood. And get their children. Right? And get their children. وَعِدْهُمْ, and then make them false promises. وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا, and shaitan only makes delusional promises. وَكَفَى بِرَبِّكَ وَكِيلًا, and it suffices your Lord as a wakil if you listen to him. So if you look at the music now, the music isn't, I want to hold your hand. It's not, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. It's not somewhere over the rainbow, right? It's not the music that's being played out there, and that was bad enough. So 1 in 3 popular songs contain explicit references to drug or alcohol use. Number of times an adolescent is exposed to explicit substance references, 35 per hour. Your kids are plugged into these things, these earphones. 84 per day, 591 times a week, 3,732 per year. Pop and rap, this is what's happening. Drug references in pop, 9, 14, rock, hip hop, 20%, country, 36%, rap, 77%. The video games is another really dark area, and I would advise all of you, if you have these games, just literally destroy them, throw them in the garbage can. Really, just get rid of them. I'm giving you sincere advice. I'm giving you good advice. Get rid of them. These are, shaitan is a time waster. He wants to take our time from us, deprive us of useful endeavors with our time. Spending time with family is good. It's really, play games with your children. Play games that use their intellect. Scrabble is a good game. Teach them language, teach them words. They love these things if you give them alternatives. Okay, the effects of video gaming, addiction, definitely. We know this now. Desensitization, empathy is lost. Social isolation, drop in school performance, obesity, wasting of time, violent tendencies, financial loss. Decrease in empathy is very important because empathy, which is basically rahmah. And this is something that's happening to our young people. I mean, we're seeing, now they have this knockout game where they just go and knock people out on the street. We're seeing more and more violence in our youth. This is a fact. People want to deny these things, but it's just the fact of life. Yesterday, I was walking in to the auditorium here, and somebody opened the door for me, and I said Salam Alaikum. I probably said it under my breath. I didn't say it. But as I walked in, he was a young man. He was in his 20s maybe. And he just started like saying to me, I don't care who you are, you should say salam. And I'm looking at this man just wondering, why are you so upset? What did I do to you? First of all, to say salam is mustahab. It's not wajib, it's mustahab. It's wajib to answer the salam. But then I have a gray beard. I'm not a child. I'm old enough to be your father. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَا يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا. You're not amongst us if you don't respect old people. You know, I might not be a sheikh of scholarship, and I make no claims, but I am a sheikh linguistically in the Arabic language. Because if you reach 50 years of age, you are called sheikh in the Arabic language. And you should respect shuyukh. You should respect older people. And for those of you who aren't there, you most likely will get there. You most likely will get there. And when you get there, you'll know what it feels like when somebody who's half your age is treating you like you're a punk. You know, he said, I don't care who you think you are. You think you're somebody. I said, I'm nobody. I'm Abdullah. I'm Abdullah, just like you're Abdullah. You know, but why do we talk to each other like that? Why are our young people so angry? Because they're watching stuff like this. They're losing empathy. I've lived with human beings. I know what human beings are like. 35 average age of game players. These aren't little kids. The average age is 35 years old. 49% are 18 to 49 years old. 25% less than 18 years old. 26% more than 50 years of age. And this is a male problem more than a female, but increasingly they're encouraging women to play these games. If you look, the M gamers, 40% are females, 51% males. In the non-M gamers, 14% are females, 28% are males, have been in physical fights. Look at those statistics. Just look at those statistics. And there's no correlation between aggression and anger and playing these games. Poor grades, 37% female, 35 male, 20 to 23% in non-gamers. Damaged property. Look at these statistics. And there's nothing happening, there's no correlation. 89% of the top-selling video games contain violent content. Almost half of it is of a serious nature. Many of them have demonic elements. The highly criticized video game Grand Theft Auto 3 was initially banned in Australia. And I'll tell you something, Karl Popper, one of the great doyens of the open society, Karl Popper, one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, in his last interview with an Italian journalist, in his last interview he said, I made a mistake about censorship. We have to censor violence. It is going to destroy our civilization. This is Karl Popper, who wrote The Open Society and Its Enemies. At the end of his life, he recognized how dangerous this was. And pornography and violence are related. They're related. You know, we forget that in Greek mythology, Eros and Mars were married, right? Eros and Mars. Right? Eros is the goddess of erotic sexuality. Mars is the goddess of war. Pornography and violence go together, and humans have understood this for a long time. This game grossed $300 million in the United States by the end of 2002, but if you looked at Grand Theft Auto 4, it grossed almost $1 billion in 2013. We're dealing with industries that have become so powerful. These are the sales. 11, almost $12 billion. 11 billion. Look at this. This is what your kids, some of your kids are doing this. Here's just one little scene. So those of you who haven't seen this.
Remember, no rush.
This Christmas, parents are going to buy children games like this. This is real. Kids underage play many games like this because when parents go to buy games, they don't check the age ratings. So this Christmas, when you go to buy a new Xbox game, check the age rating.
No, don't check the age rating. Don't buy the next Xbox game. This is the type of stuff that these kids are playing. in one of them, and now Canada, unfortunately, they're going to be training their soldiers using these games. In the United States, they spent over, I think, $150 million to create Fallujah, in a virtual Fallujah. In the virtual Fallujah, they actually had them go in and experience Fallujah, and then Arabs would pop up and they would just shoot them. And this was before they went to the actual Fallujah. So now let's look at who's behind all this. This is from Kitab al-Bulhan from the 14th century. This is a Muslim book on jinn and devils. And here's the devil. And if you notice, I don't even want to make that sign. Somebody take a picture of me and then they'll put it up on YouTube that I'm making the devil's sign, right? But that sign, if you look at his hands, is it up there? Yeah. If you look at his hands, you can see he's holding his hands like this, that's a sign of the horns of the devil. And Anton LaVey, back in the 1960s, did an interview where he explained that this is an ancient sign for devil worshippers. Baphomet is a god that they worship. Baphomet, it's argued that it's actually a deviation that some of the occultists, Christian occultists, who were devil worshippers during the Crusades, used to mock the name of the Prophet ﷺ. And you can see this being here imitated in one of these. This is obviously a very powerful witch here. Again, you can see the horns. One of the minions here, you can see on the head there. This is for all the kids to go and see Maleficent, the evil one, Walt Disney. Great thing to show little kids. Put that in their psyche. I mean, what's going on? That, by the way, right there is Anton LaVey. Marilyn Manson, who was one of the followers of Anton LaVey, he was actually ordained in the Church of Satan. Marilyn Manson has thousands of people renounce Christ and swear allegiance in his rock concerts to the devil. People can say, oh, it's just an act, it's just a big joke. Well, maybe it is, but for us it's a very real thing. You can see again the horns on his t-shirt. There he was as a young boy. We don't know what happened. He named himself after Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson. Great. This was an album cover that the Beatles chose for themselves. And the Beatles, both Lennon and McCartney, I don't know about the other two, but Lennon and McCartney were both involved in the occult. Lennon actually learned how to speak backwards, which is something occultic people do. There's tape recordings of him speaking backwards. Paul McCartney, if you look at his album covers, you will see the ram, the horns. The first name was the Beatles. There's a famous book of occult that was written by a great occultic magician called The Winged Beetle. And so they named themselves the Beatles, and then he becomes Wings. But it's been interviewed in one of the people that worked with him in the band said he was very interested in the occult and practice occult things. So there you can see very early on. This is also another occultic symbol here representing 666, sign of the beast. It also means okay, so be careful that you don't, somebody goes like that. You can see here the little Masonic hand thing here. That's a Masonic symbol there. You can see that. 23, one of the numbers in occultic numerology that's very important. Again, you can see the devil's horns. Here's Miley Cyrus, as a little Disney girl, had millions of followers. Welcome to Miley Cyrus today. Right? If you want to see where she's getting her ideas from, that's the goddess of destruction, right? So destroy a culture, destroy a generation of young people. Sharikhum fil amwali wal awlad. One Direction. Let's look at one of their lyrics. I know some of the young people listen to One Direction. All right, it's One Direction to hell, as far as I'm concerned. So let's just look at the message that they're giving your children. And they have Zayn. Trust me, it's completely, this is all orchestrated. Let's get a Muslim in there, because now there's so many Muslims in the West. Get a Muslim in there. He's just a complete minion. He's a minion. All of them, they're just minions. They don't know anything. They're not, they don't have education, nothing. So let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. Great lyrics. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. In other words, your parents or whoever. Tonight, let's get some. Okay, people who are old enough to know what that's a reference to. And live while we're young. Whoa, 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 whoa. It should be whoa, whoa. And live while we're young. Tonight, let's get some. I mean, this is what young people are listening to. These are the type of lyrics. Now, I want you to think seriously about this statement, all right? This is one of the occultists of Hollywood, original Rat Pack. Sound, please.
Jack, I think why you're my role model has to do with the way you relate to vanity, or the lack of it. I mean, I have to tell you, I just adore the fact that you don't care how you look. I adore how you commit to the part. You don't care about your little bald spots. You don't care about your stomach. Remember that wonderful stomach. You don't care about your wrinkles. This is all extremely important to me. Doing a love scene with Jack Nicholson is absolute middle-aged bliss. I mean, to lie in bed and rehearse a love scene, it's so funny, it's so spontaneous, it's so open. We're lying in bed and we're rehearsing the astronaut Garrett Reed love scene. He's explaining to Aurora what it was like to walk on the moon. She's loving it. And then we launched into the first take, and two voices came out of you. Do you remember this? Two voices, and they were simultaneous words, but they were two levels of sound. And I looked over at you. You were amazed. I was amazed, and you said, "Well, sure, I'm many different people."
That's the devil's response
"No,
to Jesus.
Jack,
My name is Legion."
You're channeling.
And she said, "No, you're channeling." All right, so channeling, the act or practice of serving as a medium through which a spirit purportedly communicates with living persons. And this is called method acting. This is Anton LaVey, who was founder of the Church of Satan. The birth of TV was a magical event foreshadowing its satanic significance. TV's infiltration has been so gradual, so complete that no one even noticed. People don't need to go to church anymore. They get their morality plays on television. Many of you already read my writings indicating that TV is the new God. There is a little thing I neglected to mention up until now. Television is the major mainstream infiltration for the new satanic religion. That was in the Devil's Notebook. So there's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna shaytana la yatamathalu." Towards the end of time he said, "Inna shaytana la yatamathalu bi surati ar-rajul fayuhaddithu an-nas bil kadhib fayaftariquna wa yaquluna laqad araftu wajhuhu wa nasitu ismuhu." It's a sahih hadith. That a man will take the form of a devil. The devil will take the form of a man. This is possession, and this is method acting. This is why a lot of actors stay in character the entire time they're performing. So for weeks, they'll be a completely different person, which in traditional cultures would have been considered possession. And they play these roles. In fact, when Heath Ledger died after playing the Joker in Batman, the response of that devil there, Jack Nicholson, was, I warned him about that role. You see, because these people are literally, they believe in that this is enhancing their craft. And one of their great warlock teachers said that one of the quickest ways to bring the devils in is through acting, right? And the word in Greek for actor was hypocrite, because they were pretending to be something they weren't. So it says, shaitan will yatamathalu, and he used the same word that we now use tamthil for acting, in the form of a man. And these are forms that you see on TV. They're just forms. They're not real people. And people will disperse and they'll say, I know his face, but I can't remember his name. And they'll tell people lies. In other words, they'll say fictionalized stories, things that didn't really happen. And there's a website, you know their faces, but you don't know their names, which is all the actors that people are familiar with, but they don't know their names. And how many times have you said that or heard people say that? I can't remember that guy's name. You know, I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. How many people have had that experience with actors? Now, here, the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm warning you. That every prophet came and they warned their people about the Dajjal. But I'm going to tell you something about the Dajjal that nobody said to their people. He has one eye, and God does not have one eye. Now, I find it very bizarre that this cult of one eye is so prevalent in popular culture. Everywhere you look, the cult of one eye, and there you have Eminem, this minion with his devil's horns and his one eye plastered on the streets of Toronto. And all these one-eyed cartoon characters, those characters are actually called the Minions. This is all, and you can say, you know, I'm not talking about a conspiracy. A lot of people don't know what this is about. They don't know. Like, these cartoonists aren't all plotting and things like this. This is all inspiration. It's demonic inspiration. They're inspired by shaitan. If you want to know who's at the root of this conspiracy, it's an unseen world that we're dealing with. St. Paul said that our struggle is not with the powers of flesh and blood, but principalities of darkness. That this is part of the struggle of the people of God as they fight against forces of darkness that want to bring human beings down. Why? Have you ever seen anybody do that? Have you ever taken a picture like that? Who would take a picture like that? Why would you do that? I've never seen anybody do that. Why would you do that? Why? Why is this all this one-eye obsession? What's going on? Somebody's going to take a picture, put it up on the web, and then say, I'm part of this. This is one of the, do what thou wilt. This is the philosophy of one of the really, this man was a high-ranking magus, a magician. He was born in the 1880s, died in 1947. 20 years after his death, almost to the date, they released Sgt. Pepper. It was 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. The Beatles were heavily influenced by this man. Kinsey, who did all of the sexual studies that proved that deviant sexuality was normal, was also a follower of Crowley, actually made a visit to his temple in Sicily where they used to have bestiality, pedophilia, all of these horrible things. His message to people was, do what thou wilt, do whatever you want. Jay-Z, another one of these minions here. Dark Messiah, might and magic elements, right? This is an Xbox game. You can see Baphomet in the background, the Dark Messiah. This is all preparation for young people. He's got one eye. Did you see that? So, and then dress, right? Cross-dressing. This is something that they do. They love to put people into female clothes. So you have all these actors being cross-dressers. This becomes normalization. Even in hip-hop, you're seeing cross-dressing, wearing skirts, having their pants hang off their bottom, which was one of the things that they do in prisons. Initially, it started out because of people that were open to same-sex experience in the prisons would do that. This is all to break down people. This is the culture that they're putting forward to young people. Tattoos, 1 out of 4 Americans now has tattoos. Food is very much a part of this. Junk food, haram food, obesity, extravagance, glut, because it's related. The food is related. All of these, it's all part of the same system to get you eating food that doesn't nourish your body, makes you sick, right? This is what's happening to our culture, our civilization. So now to look at what some of these things mean. قلت يا رسول الله هل للساعة من علم تعرف به قال نعم يا ابن مسعود إن للساعة أعلاما. The hour has signs. وإن للساعة أشراطا. And the hour has, it's similar to the signs, the أشراطا. ألا وإن من أعلام الساعة وأشراطها أن يكون الولد غيظا. You will see young people filled with rage. وأن يكون المطر قيظا. And you will see rain, acidic, rain that is harsh, which is already happening. وأن تفيض الأشرار فيضا. You will see evil people in large numbers. يا ابن مسعود إن من أعلام الساعة وأشراطها أن يؤتمن الخائن. Treacherous people will be trustworthy, will be trusted. وأن يخون الأمين. And trustworthy people will be considered treacherous. وأن يصدق الكاذب. And liars will be believed. وأن يكذب الصادق. And truthful people will be belied. يا ابن مسعود إن من أعلام الساعة وأشراطها أن تواصل الأطباق وأن تقطع الأرحام في رواية تقاطع الأرحام. Now this is a very interesting hadith. Traditionally our scholars said that muwasalat al-atbaq was that people would eat one plate after another. But in North Africa, the Arabic word that is used for satellite dishes is atbaq. Some of them say dishat, but they use atbaq. And atbaq is actually a more proper ta'rib of dish. In the East they say suhoon, or they say dishat. They say suhoon, but a sahan is a flat dish. The tabaq is a concave dish. You can look this up in Lisan al-Arab. The tabaq is a concave dish. It's not a flat dish. Sahan is a flat dish. That's why the Arabs call the open space the sahan in a house or at the Kaaba. You have sahan al-Kaaba. So it's actually a tabaq. It's not a sahan. And then the word that we use for satellite communications is muwasalat. Muwasalat al-aqmar al-sana'iyya. So the word here, tuwasul al-atbaq, the dishes will be constantly communicating. And the kinship bonds will be severed. My conclusion to this was that people will be watching satellite dish and stop visiting their relatives. I called one of my teachers from Mauritania and I asked him if he thought that was acceptable. He said he had the same interpretation of it. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. You can see now all over the Middle East. Now when I was a young man studying in the United Arab Emirates, I heard khutbah after khutbah about how the dish was haram. I heard all these imams saying that the satellite dish was haram. This was all over the Middle East. When the satellite first showed up, they all said it was haram. And then after a while, they stopped saying it was haram. Everybody just kept getting the satellite dish. And now you have all of these millions of people watching filth constantly on these television programs, wasting their time. يا ابن مسعود إن من علام الساعة وأشراطها أن يسود كل قبيلة منافقوها. كل قبيلة منافقوها. You will see the leaders of every tribe, the hypocrites. And you will see the people ruling the marketplaces, the worst people, the fujjar. يا ابن مسعود إن من علام الساعة وأشراطها أن تزخرف المحاريب وأن تخرب القلوب. You will see, or takhrub, you will see the maharib filled with ornamentation and the hearts will be bereft. يا ابن مسعود إن من علام الساعة وأشراطها أن يكون المؤمن في القبيلة أذل من النقد. He will be belittled, the believer will be belittled. In a tribe, he'll be like the goats that have no power. يا ابن مسعود إن من علام الساعة وأشراطها أن يكتفي الرجال بالرجال. You will see men now taking intimacy with men and women with women. So you will see more and more increasingly this prevalence of same-sex relationships. يا ابن مسعود إن من علام الساعة وأشراطها ملك الصبيان ومؤامرة النساء. You will see young children becoming powerful, and you will see this conspiracy or the women conspiring. يا ابن مسعود إن من أشراط الساعة وعلامها أن يعمر خراب الدنيا ويخرب عمرانها. You'll see that the civilization of destruction and the destruction of civilization, and this type of culture is a destructive culture. You will see musical instruments everywhere and intoxicants being imbibed. You will see the police everywhere, and you will see people of sexual harassment, and you will see people, all these gossip mongers, and the internet is filled with gossip mongers. And from this end of time, you'll see a lot of children of fornication. Now here, I believe that this is an incredibly important hadith. تعرض الفتن على القلوب كالحصير عودا عودا فأي قلب أشربها نكت فيه نكتة سوداء وأي قلب أنكرها نكتت فيه نكتة بيضاء حتى تصير على قلبين على أبيض مثل الصفاء فلا تضره فتنة ما دامت السماوات والأرض والآخر أسود مربادا كالكوز مجخيا لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا إلا ما أشرب من هواه. The fitan will be exposed to the hearts like a mat. The Prophet said like a hasir is a mat that has vertical and horizontal lines. And he said udan udan by these two, the two, you have the ud and udan. And then he said that the hearts that, and this is a passive, ushribaha, the hearts that let it come into it passively. They don't actively take it, they take it passively. Then a black dot will appear that will grow. And if it rejects it, then a white dot will appear until you'll have two hearts. White hearts that are pure and the fitna won't harm them as long as there's heaven and earth, and black dot that is pitch black, like a cup that is spilt upside down, so it can't contain anything. Mujakhiyan. Jakha means to fall over. So it's like a cup that is spilt over. La ya'rifu ma'rufa. It won't know good. Wa la yunkiru munkara. And it won't reject evil. Illa ma ushriba min hawahu. Except what it has taken in from all of this caprice and appetite and foulness. Now if you look at the television, all of these televisions are based on Eidan. If you translate it into Arabic, they're all based on Eidan. And this is actually an LDC screen. So you can see how they have these oud. And they're literally a matrix, like a mattress. It's like a mat. And I really believe if you read the early commentaries on this hadith, if you read, for instance, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, his commentary on this, to me they don't make sense. It's a very strange hadith of why the Prophet used this analogy. And it's in Bab al-Fitan, it's towards the end of time. And they don't translate it like that. So what does it mean? This is a screen here. Look at the Eidan. These are called Eidan in the Arabic language. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صنفان من أهل النار لم أراهما قوما معهم سياط كأذناب البقر يضربون بها الناس ونساء كاسيات عاريات مائلات مميلات رؤوسهن كأسنمة البخت المائلة لا يدخلن الجنة ولا يجدن ريحها وإن ريحها لا يوجد من مسيرة كذا وكذا. Sahih Muslim. Two people from the hellfire I haven't seen. Men that hit people with sticks, and women that are naked and dressed at the same time. And he said that parts of my ummah will drink alcohol and they'll call it by other names. And يُعْزَفُ عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ بِالْمَعَازِفِ. Now listen to this hadith, people. This is your Prophet ﷺ speaking. مَا يَنْطِقُ عَنَ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He said that there will be musical instruments on their heads. تُعْزَفُ عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ الْمَعَازِفِ. There will be musical instruments on their heads. This is a clear miracle of our Prophet ﷺ. And this should increase your iman, because he saw the time we're living in. Now here is the iPad. And if you look, this to me is so symbolic of what this culture is about. It is a shadow. It's not a human being anymore. The iPod, you know, they had a book that Isaac Asimov wrote years ago called I, Robot. Because a robot doesn't have being. There's no being. It's just I, Robot. It's not I am a robot, because you have to have being to be a human being. The robot is not human. It doesn't have being in the same way we have being. So they said, I, Robot. This is iPod. You know what a pod is? In science fiction films, a pod is what takes you over. And it grows inside of you. It takes you over until you're left a shadow, and you're no longer I am a pod, you're just iPod, because your being has been deracinated, it's been removed from you. And this is the type of culture that we have. Young people that are filled with the same idiotic vacuities. They have no sense of who they are. They don't know that they're Abdullah, that they're Amatullah. They have no sense of where they came from. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is the civilization of destruction. And it has destroyed civilization. And we should reject it. We should reject this culture. We should reject it in our hearts. We should not participate in it. We need to create alternative cultures. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان ومن يتبع خطوات الشيطان فإنه يأمر بالفحشاء والمنكر. ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته ما زكى منكم من أحد أبدا ولكن الله يزكي من يشاء. أحذركم وأحذر نفسي. إن الشيطان عدو لكم فاتخذوه عدوا. He's an enemy of yours. Take him as an enemy. Fortify yourself. Recognize, purify your homes. Remove these things from your homes. Get them out of your homes. Put a space in your home that is a space where you can go and you can be with your Lord. Have a space in your home where you can go and you'll feel the tranquility over time that begins to emerge in that space. I have a place in my house, people come in and they say, I've had non-Muslims come into that room and they say, it feels so peaceful in here. Why is that? Because if you worship Allah, we create sacred space. This is a time we're living in where they're removing sacred space. They're defiling everything. This is defilement. It's fasad fil ard. They are defiling the earth. And these are demons. We are up against demons. There are human demons and there are demons from the unseen world. They have their minions. Many of them don't know they're minions, but they are minions of the devils. And this can sound like medieval claptrap to some modern people. Well, so be it. So be it. People don't believe in demons anymore. Well, just look around you. Look at the type of culture we have. Look at what's happened to people. Wake up. Open your eyes. Look for yourselves. You'll begin to see this if you haven't seen it already. You will see it. It's all being reinforced. شاركهم في الأموال والأولاد. Share in their children. Guard your children. قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. Save yourselves and your families. Shaitan says, قال بما أغويتني لأغوينهم. لا أقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. In another ayah he says لا أغوينهم أجمعين. Because you led me astray. He blames God. Because you led me astray, I will lead them all astray. And then in this one he says لا أقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. I will lie in wait on the straight path. The people are on the path. Shaitan is lying in wait. ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم. I will come from in front of them. من خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. You will find most of them are not grateful. This is what Shaitan wants to do. He wants to take you away. He wants to make you an ingrate. People's hearts are being filled with pollution. They're watching all of this stuff on television. Their hearts are being filled with pollution. They're seeing 200,000 acts of violence, 16,000 murders. You don't think this is going to have an effect on their rejection? That's how they can watch a million Iraqis killed and nobody cares. They can watch Syrians killed and nobody cares because people lose empathy. They lose empathy. And this is what makes us human. This is what makes us human. We have to reestablish our humanity. We have to reclaim our humanity, and we have to recognize Shaitan is our enemy. Allahumma ballaght. Allahumma ballaght. Jazakum Allah khairan. Assalamu alaikum. I want just to, my dear friend, and I consider him my teacher, he's one of the most beautiful human beings I know, Sheikh Abdullah Al-Qadi, he's from Al-Ahsa, he's a Shafi'i scholar, Hafidh of Quran. He went over 35,000 miles, tracing every single place the Prophet went that was mentioned in Sirah. Personally, he did this personally, 35,000 miles. He went to Jordan, he went to Syria, he went every place in the Arabian Peninsula where our beloved Prophet left his footprints, and he did all global positioning, GPS. This is God's positioning system. He wrote this book on the Hijrah Nabawiyah, and it has pictures where he shows all the places the Prophet went on the Hijrah. It's a remarkable work. It's available here. He printed it, he donated it, and may Allah reward him and increase him. Say Ameen. May Allah reward him and increase him, bless his family. He has a wonderful family. I spent 12 years going to Al-Ahsa to have Eid, and 1 year I didn't go. He called me up. He said, they haven't broken their fast yet because you didn't come. They don't think it's Eid. So he is a beautiful human being. But please get the book, support the book. It's a good book to give to people. Also, my sister did a children's book that she produced, that Abdul Hakim Winter did, of good stories. And this is what we have to do. We have to create alternative narratives. We have to produce our own films. We need good filmmakers. We need good documentarians. We need good children's writers. We have Miss Lombard, who also does children's books. We have many talented people. We need you to really begin to produce culture that dignifies human beings, that ennobles human beings. We need to reject this degrading culture that makes human beings lose their humanity. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have dignified the children of Adam. Let us maintain our dignity, preserve it, hold on to it. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.